This is a video tutorial to show you how to use the Understanding by Design, or what's known as backward design template, as you work to design your own lesson template over the next couple of weeks. The expectation is that you'll learn how this template works and then start to develop your own ideas and work them into this template for the following week, so that after the 11th, the week after the 11th, you'll be able to present your lesson using this backward design model. What you see here is how we've reworked or tweaked the model to fit our needs at the high school for our one-to-one. Instead of calling it Understanding by Design or backward design, we're using this as our school improvement goal. So we're really kind of killing two birds with one stone here, which is kind of nice. But this format helps us to get many more people involved, and it makes it much more relevant to the work that we're doing. So what we did is we took our vision, our mission, and our goals for the school year and taken them out of an older model, an outdated model with outdated language really, into this model. In our vision, we say that the Wolves Digital Education Network one-to-one initiative will empower high school students to be successful, problem-solving employees and global citizens in a world of ubiquitous computing. And then our mission is that students and teachers will be active participants in their learning process as they critically analyze information, create new knowledge collaboratively, and communicate what they've learned. And this goes right along with the 4 C's that we talk about whenever we refer to Common Core language. If you notice right away, what you see first is the goal, an understanding that we must have in order to meet our goal, an essential question or questions that are tied to the goal, and then the skills and knowledge that you're going to need in order to complete the tasks that are associated with the goal. Moving down from there, you start to document or think about the direct and indirect evidence that's associated with your goal. And then finally, the very last thing that we do is we talk about the activities that are going to be tied to this goal. Far too often, we think about what activities we want students to do first, and we don't think about then what the outcome is going to be or how we are going to assess they know what they know. So this is really the model that we should be using. It's difficult to do. It's hard to transition from what we've been used to doing and just kind of doing it on the fly and winging it. We still have some of that goes on, but ultimately, this is what we would want you to use in an ideal situation. So just for your point of reference, this is a high school teacher goal. We have teacher goals and student goals. And in all of the resources that I'm going to provide for you, I'll try to give you enough examples so that you can have a clearer understanding of what you need to do. So this again is the high school teacher goal for our one-to-one for this school year. Our goal is that high school teachers will aggressively cultivate a participatory culture that nurtures creativity in all learners. And then we say that Reed Spring High School teachers will need to understand how to infuse curriculum and instructional methods and content, projects and lessons with 21st century education technology through daily delivery of classroom instruction. And that's really a mouthful, but we're going to break that down into the knowledge and skills and the activities here in a moment. The essential question then is really just kind of turned around from our SMART goal. So if you think about it in that way, it might be easier for you to come up with an essential question. How will teachers change instructional practices and shift pedagogy to meet the needs of 21st century learners? That's really what this is all about. This is the real change that we're trying to make here in this learning culture here at the high school. We've decided that some of the knowledge and skills that teachers will need are to be knowledgeable on best practices and the role of technology for student learning outcomes, and that we need professional learning and support for transitioning instructional methods, assessments, including the SAMR and the IPIT, to reflect the needs of their students. That teachers need to redesign student tasks using the SAMR model, and that teachers need to understand their pedagogy and apply their beliefs to their teaching methods and expectations for student learning outcomes. By the way, some of what we have in here comes from the work that we do with our trainer Karen at Anytime Anywhere Learning Foundation. She provides us with these extensively detailed reports, and so we've taken most of our language and we've just applied it here because according to Karen, these are the next steps that we need to follow. So it wasn't really that difficult to put this into this model. Some direct evidence then that the teachers came up with are the SAMR model, the IPI and IPIT, the evaluations of building administrators, and our reports from AALF. And then we have some indirect evidence of increased student engagement, increased student attendance, teacher reflections and transformations following the SAMR, student voice group input and feedback, teacher and department collaborative work, and office discipline referrals. As you can see, there's really a distinct difference between these two in what we can directly measure and then indirectly measure. And then the teachers came up with these key activities or actions. So this is where we tend to start of the things that we're going to do, and then we think about all of the other things last. What we're asking is for you to think about the things that you're going to do last. So we've come up with that the teachers are going to utilize tech tools and student laptops every day. Karen says we learn to do the work by doing the work. So we simply have to make this a point to do this every day. You can see the person's responsible and the timeline or the time frame in each of these activities that we're doing as well. Provide professional learning to teachers on implementing instructional strategies and best practices for upward movement on the SAMR model. Our next key action is for the implementation of instructional tech coaches to support teachers with instructional practices and classroom procedures consistent with the one-to-one vision and change in pedagogy. Next, we're going to do Tech in 10, professional learning for teachers on programs, applications, tips, strategies to improve student learning outcomes. And then finally, face-to-face and blended professional learning. This is where we get our 6 hours of tech in, along with everything else we do in PLC, for teachers on integrating technology, pedagogy, and change knowledge. And this is it. This is what it looks like. We've come up with one goal for teachers that's manageable, and we go back and see that we're on track with this goal. Now, let me show you a blank one that is provided by Dr. Templeton. And she gives us in here in the red, you can see the where you might pull these things from. So if you're having trouble thinking about, well, where am I going to get these goals and how am I even going to do this? Then you could start here. And she says to refer back to your CCSS or your GLEAS or CLEAS. And then depending on what building you're in, your essential standards are called that, or maybe they're called power standards, priority standards. Your essential questions are going to come from your higher levels of Webb's and Bloom's, but they're really going to be tied back to your goal. And then students will be able to, and then you're going to match this again. So you're really looking for the verbs that you're going to ask students to do. Notice this format is a little bit different than ours. I really like the one that we have, although I'm not opposed to this one. And if this one makes more sense to you, it's just that the labels under each stage are labeled a little bit differently. Feel free to use any one of these. Although I think they arrive at the same outcome, it just puts it together in a little different way. Performance task and other evidence. The reason this is here rather than direct and indirect evidence is maybe because in your building, in your grade level, you use the language of performance task rather than direct evidence, and you use other evidence rather than indirect evidence. And then I kind of like the way that she set up these activities in a Monday through Friday format in thinking about it that way. So again, this is just something to give you a little bit of assistance in developing your own using this model. This is just one example to use. I'll show you the blank one that we have. This is where we took ours from. So this is simply the blank copy of the one that we used. Down here under key actions, persons responsible, and time frame, I just highlighted this and I made this into 3 columns and then rows depending on what I needed there so that this isn't all in one thing. I think that's just a second page that kind of bumped down there. So this is a really quick overview of the universal design model or backward design model. I'll be sure to include some other examples and some literature for you to read up on universal design before you begin to develop your own. Now, as it stands with our 2 days of not being able to meet, you'll have 2 full weeks to fully research this and really think about what you want to contribute here as something. Truman, I know your situation is a little bit different than others, and feel free to ask for suggestions, or maybe this is something that you can collaborate with on teachers that you co-teach with, so that maybe you can borrow from something that they're doing, and who knows, use this in the future in your own teaching situation. other than what you're doing currently in our school district. Please feel free to contact me. Any questions that you pose in an email, I'm going to put up for everybody to see because I think everything is beneficial to what we're doing here. So good luck to you and happy snow days.